Across the country, and this will continue until the terrorists are completely decimated. The progress made is through cumulative efforts of the killing of the terrorist leaders, their commanders, and the terrorist combatants, as well as taking away their most important assets such as their logistics capability, their administrative capability, and their fighting capabilities. The elimination of the senior terrorist commanders, coupled with the international pressure as well as media, all combined to destroy the will to fight of the terrorists and their cohorts. Now, during the month of May, the potency of the terrorists was largely degraded, with over 624 terrorists neutralized, 1,051 terrorists, including their logistics suppliers and informants, arrested, while 563 hostages were rescued during the month of May. Additionally, troops recovered over 700 assorted weapons, over 16,000 assorted ammunition, and we denied the oil theft of over 700 million naira worth of stolen crude oil. Also, we denied the oil theft. We recovered 411 AK-47 rifles, over 230 locally fabricated guns, and 43 pump-action guns, among others, during the month of May. Troops also recovered over 4 million liters of stolen crude oil. We recovered over 900,000 liters of illegally refined AGO, otherwise known as diesel, as well as over 4,400 liters of PMS was recovered, among others, in the month of May. Now let's take a look at the various operations across the country, beginning with the Northeast, where we have Operation Harden K. The troops of Operation Harden K conducted intense operations to terrorist enclaves in Sambisa Forest and the Tumbus in the Lake Chad region. The targeted operations were to the senior terrorist commanders and their strongholds. Now, in Sambisa, troops made contact at the following locations: Unguru, Mari, Alafa, Unkuba, Gerin Padebita, and Gerin Abu Amir, among other areas where contact was made. Troops also neutralized one Malam Muhammad, the leader of the improvised explosive device cell in Sambisa Forest. Troops equally rescued 386 kidnapped hostages. These hostages, several of whom had been in captivity for over 10 years. They have been handed over to the Borno State government. Also in the month of May, troops of Operation Harden K neutralized 306 terrorists. We arrested 199 suspects and rescued an additional 219 kidnapped hostages. This is in addition to the earlier ones that I mentioned. Troops also recorded over 1,000 surrendered terrorist combatants and their families. We recovered over 200 AK-47 rifles in the month of May, and as well as 53 fabricated rifles, among others, in the month of May. Now to the activities of the air component of Operation Harden K. The air component of Operation Harden K conducted air interdiction to terrorist locations in southern Tubun Fulani and Dogo, as well as the Lake Chad basin, destroying several terrorist infrastructure, their logistics bases, and as well as decimating many of the terrorist commanders and their combatants. We can now move to the North Central, where we have Operation Safe Haven. Now, the troops of Operation Safe Haven conducted several offensive operations, including raids to hideouts of terrorists and violent extremists. These operations yielded significant successes, and these successes include the recovery of arms and ammunition and the arrest of suspected violent extremists, including kidnappers, gun runners, armed robbers, killers, as well as impostors. We also recovered a lot of Russell cattle in the course of our operations. The troops of Operation Safe Haven in the month of May neutralized 39 terrorists and violent extremists. We arrested 140 suspects, and we rescued 77 kidnapped hostages. Troops recovered 9 AK-47 rifles, among others, during the month of May. Now, still in the North Central, let's take a look at Operation Wild Stroke. The troops of Operation Wild Stroke conducted several operations to terrorist and violent extremist strongholds. The operations recorded the arrest of violent extremists, their collaborators, and several gun runners. Namely, we have one Usman Shaibu, we have a Tukur Bala, we have a Shaibu Umar, and we also have a Malam Umar Usman, among others that were arrested in our operations in May. Troops also arrested logisticians for the violent extremists and arrested logisticians for the Ambazonian rebels of Cameroon. Some of the arrested persons include Jafaru Adamu, we have Awal Haruna, as well as Umar Dahiru, among others that were arrested in the month of May in the course of these operations. Additionally, troops arrested the second in command of a notorious terrorist, alias Full Fire. He is identified as Mr. Teka Atoba. That's his real name. He was arrested in the course of our operations, and overall, the troops of Operation Wild Stroke neutralized 41 terrorists, arrested 184 suspects, and rescued 48 kidnapped hostages in the month of May in the course of our operations. Troops equally recovered 18 AK-47 rifles, 27 assorted arms, and over 2,000 rounds of 7.62mm special ammunition, among others, in the month of May. Now we can cross over to the northwest, where we have Operation Hadirindaji. Now the troops of Operation Hadirindaji have witnessed, during the period under review, issues of kidnap for ransom, attack on remote communities, and communal clashes during the month of May. However, the troops have sustained offensive actions to destroy the terrorists and disrupt their activities. Troops' operations instigated rival clash among the terrorist groups, and this has paid dividends. A notorious terrorist commander known as Usman Maudi was eliminated as a result of this and has been taken off the battlefield. The terrorist commander hitherto terrorized communities around Dan Musa, Kankara, and Safana local government areas of Katsina State. Overall, the troops neutralized 262 terrorists, arrested over 200 suspects, and rescued 243 kidnapped hostages during the month of May. The air component of Operation Hadirin Daji recorded significant airstrikes and acquired terrorist enclaves and camps. Some of the camps and enclaves which air interdictions were conducted on were in Faskari, Bayanrua, Maradun, and Anka local government areas of Zamfara state. Some of the terrorist leaders targeted in these airstrikes include Jamu Smoli and Kachala Halilu. Additionally, terrorist enclaves at Tunga, Daji in Zamfara state, and Rugu Forest in Safana local government areas were all engaged in the air interdictions during the month of May. Senior terrorist commanders hibernating in these areas include Kachala Ruga and Hayu, among others. Now to Operation Wild Punch. The troops of Operation Wild Punch intensified efforts against terrorists and violent extremists in the conduct of operations. Significantly, offensive operations such as fighting patrols, raids, ambushes, and clearance patrols were conducted to terrorist hideouts and enclaves. The operations denied the terrorists the freedom of action as well as diminished the combat capabilities of the terrorist group. The sustained operations forced a senior terrorist commander